Hello, my loyal subjects, and welcome back to my Daring Do series review. If you are just tuning in, I'll give you the briefest of rundowns. I've taken it upon myself to review the Daring Do book trilogy. I've already reviewed Daring Do in the Forbidden City of Clouds, so if you're interested in that, there will be a link in the description. Note, these reviews will contain the most important of spoilers, so don't say I didn't warn you. With that in mind, this week's selection is Daring Do and the Eternal Flower. We start our next whirlwind adventure in the odd setting of a high society event, where our brave heroine takes part in shallow hobnobbing for the sake of a lead that will bring about her next quest for, drumroll please, the Eternal Flower. Yeah, kind of a no-brainer there. Anyways, this event is a fundraiser for the Equestrian Botanical Society, and Daring Do is there to hunt down the members Thaddeus Vine and Madame Willow Fern, both of whom have proven to be knowledgeable on Do's new object of obsession. Unfortunately, before Do can begin to question the pair, who should come to crash the party other than Dr. Capilleron himself? Hey, Doc! Were you supposed to be in, I don't know, a certain other book I reviewed? After a tussle or two with the good doctor's henchponies, they come to a standoff where Caballero has Vine and Fern as captives and will only release them if Daring lets his gang go without any trouble, to which our hero reluctantly agrees. Our criminal gets off scotch-free and recovers an important item from the event, but not before giving Do the worst insult she had ever received. He tells her she looks nice. After the entire debacle, the two botanical enthusiasts lead Do to a private library to get her up to speed on the happenings of the Eternal Flower and the item Capilleron had stolen, which is revealed to be the Eternal Leaf. The pair also reveal the whole point of the evening was to recruit Daring Do for a rescue mission to find their colleague Gallant True, who is none other than her Uncle Adventure. Not the most creative nickname for a relative, but I assume that she was like 5 when she came up with it, as it is demonstrated that Daring and her Uncle Ad were very close throughout her childhood, apparently spending a lot of time at Horseshoe Bay playing treasure hunt. Turns out over the years they had lost touch, but Uncle Ad always knew the type of mare Do was, as she was something he often talked about with his colleagues, and even made the plan to lure her to the banquet for the mission of locating the Eternal Flower. Those plans were obviously botched because of the whole MIA thing, but Gallant True didn't disappear off the face of the earth without leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for Do to follow in the form of the phrase, face to face, and a daffodil key. Throughout the exchange in the library, Thaddeus Vine treats Daring with some suspicious behavior that might foreshadow to something. I can only guess though, because his behavior was about as subtle as Rarity's drama episodes. Nonetheless, Thaddeus and Madame Fern both leave Do in the library for some last-minute research, and as soon as she's left to her own devices, Do immediately gets cracking on her Uncle Ad's clues, figuring out his little face-to-face riddle while looking over a portrait of him and finding a keyhole. Behind said portrait were 2 objects to aid in our protagonist's quest, a leather book and a vial containing a second Eternal Leaf. If that wasn't handy enough, the book was actually a journal of Gallant True's many years of research regarding the Eternal Flower. With nothing else left to guide the way, Daring Do is off to track down the lost Eternal Leaf and Dr. Cabilleron. Though the Fiend got a head start, Do set out that same night to track him down, and find him she did, but was too late as Cabilleron revealed the leaf had already been sold to the monster Zodal. Unbeknownst to the antagonist, both Everleaves were needed to locate the Eternal Flower, as they acted as a compass. The only relevant information for Daring Do is that Zodal has Gallant True captive. After a few more moments of banter with Cabilleron, Do soars into the stormy night sky, but is soon followed by a new addition into Dr. Cabilleron's workforce, Rosie Thorn. She claims she only wants to help Daring Do, so, of course, our hero gives her the classic trope.
Have I mentioned yet that I work alone?
But Do finds she has to change her tune when Thorn is able to take her to her uncle and Zodal. Rosie takes our protagonist to a temple near the coast, and it seems legitimized as it's crawling with Zodal's guards, and soon the big blue cat monkey thing himself pops out with the Everleaf in hand and attempts to use it, but since the 2 leaves are not together, the direction it points is the opposite of its true location, though he seems unaware of it at the moment. Soon after, he gathers more of his henchponies and pulls out Gallant True, tied up and with a Haravian unichain on his horn meant to stifle his magic. According to Daring Do, this kind of entrapment is cruel and humiliating to a unicorn, even by vicious monster standards, and the only way to remove it is with its key. Identifying the head guard as the likeliest to have the key, the 2 Pegasi soon devise a strategy for recovering the Everleaf, Gallant True, and the key, and put it into motion, but not before Do informs Rosie that she will not be returning for any captives. Another squabble ensues, with the aftermath being Daring Do rescuing the Everleaf, the key, and her uncle, while Zodal captures Rosie Thorn, and true to her word, Daring does not go back. Real cold, but she did warn her, I guess. When Gallant, True, and Daring Do finally reach a place to breathe, they actually have a warm exchange, and True reveals that the unit chain was never locked into place to begin with. Kinda made the whole recover the key thing a waste, and kinda makes Rosie risking her life for it kinda pointless. But hey, Gallant True calls Daring Darling Do, that's cute, right? Anyways, they discuss a bit about the Eternal Flower, you know, like how drinking its nectar makes you immortal, how its appearance changes every time it's seen, how it then replants itself somewhere new. Something Gallant brings up are the 3 rubrics found in carvings where legends say Mooncurve the Cunning took a sip of the flower's nectar. Ooh, I have a whole conspiracy theory around that brimming in my head, but I'll save it for another time. Anyways, the rubric is as follows. Number 1. To read the compass, leaf the pages. Number 2. To reach the island, travel the scales. And number 3. To reveal the truth, examine the roots. Snapping to it, they bring the leaves together so they can calibrate, and soon they shoot beams pointing in the direction of the ocean. Do deducts quickly that there is only one island that lays in the direction, and figures out the second rubric as the island they must travel to is Dragon Clan territory. Though that's hardly a conflict, as Daring also happens to be friends with a dragon who owes her a few, and flies them to the Isle of Scaly. Yeah, I know what you're thinking, that I'm kinda just glancing over the whole dude's got a dragon in debt to her situation, and there's a bit of a story to it, but it's unimportant and uninteresting, so I've really spared you. If you really care for some sort of details, Dude's got a dragon tooth whistle to call him with, and the dragon's name is Knuckerbocker. Once they reach the island and land, Knucker is off to do whatever it is dragons do all day, with Do and True left to calibrate the leaves once more, but only to be thwarted by Zodel once again. And with him is, ooh, shocker, Thaddeus Vine here to portray his longtime colleague, and Rosie Thorne, who is actually Vine's sister, here to help him with his nefarious plot. Who else is relieved she's evil and not some poor innocent Mary left to die at the hands of a sadistic monster? Huh? So we go through the whole lot of traitor business, and Daring and Gallant are forced to cooperate with the fiends until they reach a rough river and are then attacked by a dragon, giving the duo enough cover to snatch back the Everleaves and escape on a makeshift raft. The river soon takes them to a cliff carved into the shape of a dragon's skull, but they can barely take time to admire the scenery as Zodel and his gang catch up again, both passing under a waterfall into a crescent-shaped grotto aptly named the Grotto of the Moon, where Gallant is certain the flower is located. Once the group reaches the shore, the search begins with some flowers having various hilarious effects. True and Dare are the only ones who don't dash off to find the flower by sight like their deceptive companions, as Daring states the 3rd rubric once more. To reveal the truth, examine the roots. At her call, the water sucks her up and throws her into some sort of inverted dimension where she can see all the roots of the plants in the grotto, and that nobody has noticed her absence. Not even the villains or the henchponies, who you would think would look out for that sort of thing since the captives are constantly escaping. Heck, shouldn't they have been trying to shake them down to reveal the flower anyway? As you can guess, Do identifies the roots and his correlating flower, which in the Grove of Exotic Gorgeous Flowers is the plain Jane of the group. Soon after, the water spits her back out beside her uncle, who is none the wiser but still glad to hear they now know what flower to save. Meanwhile, Zodel blunders and picks up a poison joke that soon puts him on par with Appletini, and flees with his henchponies. Thaddeus Vine fares no better as he selects what Gallant True explains to be a southern swelling rose that inflates his head and sends him hovering off in the air with his sister hot on his tail. Left to their own devices again, the duo inspect the flower they had risked life and limb for. But Gallant reveals that despite his years of research into the flower and its discovery, he never wished to gain immortality or even wishes to recover the flower for academic purposes. In his own words, he said, "It was wonderful to see. But let's go home, darling Do." Ending the adventure, things are tied up with the leaves and diary being destroyed for safety, and the two chatted up over a meal in a diner at Horseshoe Bay. So, that was Daring Do and the Eternal Flower. My thoughts? This was actually a great read. Perhaps my expectations were brought down from my previous experience with the Daring Do trilogy, but this book nonetheless had the proper build-up, interesting characterization, and a satisfying conclusion. The best thing I can say is, it was a lot of fun. I have to wonder if the story was trying to convey a don't judge a flower by its petals moral, literally, with the Eternal Flower being a plain daisy and the whole scenario with Rosie Thorne. I mean, Rosie Thorne's portrayal wasn't exactly what I expected. I honestly thought Zodel was going to use her as leverage at one point, but it wasn't all that surprising either. If her name alone didn't convey enough, she was already working for Dr. Caballeron to begin with, but like I said, I was more relieved than anything. Daring's treatment of Rosie was cold at best. Sure, she had reasons to be suspicious and didn't exactly mean to abandon her, but she had still left her in the hands of a ruthless monster who had already imprisoned her uncle and had entrapped him in the worst way possible at that. Who knows what he would have done to her if she was actually just a lone mare who had acted on good intentions. If Duke can be as cold and calculating as that, it makes me think of the episode Daring Don't and how she treated Rainbow Dash. The whole working alone thing makes a lot more sense. Duke has to be careful of who she trusts, and though Dash wasn't exactly suspicious, I wouldn't put my trust in an idiot. Aside from that aspect though, Daring was fairly enjoyable in this tale. Adventurous, quick-witted, and never at a loss for words. And other than Thaddeus Vine, the other characters in this book pulled through pretty well. Gallant True, or Uncle Ad as Dew calls him, was a great, funny, quirky uncle, and the relationship between him and Dew is made real believable through their interaction, and even through other characters' impression of him when he's not around. Howie Zoodle was a lot of fun just being the vile, selfish, and cowardly villain we all love, like Cobra Commander or Starscream. Since I brought up earlier how the book was a step up from the one I had previously reviewed, I suppose I'll expand on that a bit. My biggest complaint with Daring Do in the Forbidden City of Clouds was that the ending was extremely lackluster in its execution. This book's climax, however, I found to be far more satisfying. Sure, you could argue something about how Daring Do doesn't recover the artifact in the end, but we come to understand the reason for abandoning it. Even Gallant True says something along the lines of immortality would be a curse, while the Forbidden City of Clouds just left more to be desired, with the main article being thrown to us. But if you really want more on that, check out my previous review. I also like how this story didn't follow the trend the previous cover presented. You know the one. I'm Heather Blossom, and how much you want to bet there's a relation between Mooncurve and Star Swirl the Bearded? Come on now.
Everybody, oh yeah, stand up, people, woo! Everybody, get down now, stand up, don't be shy, people, come on up, get up,